All right, hi everybody. Going to talk about rhetorical devices. Just put an S there for AP English Lit. Some of these are familiar. Some of them might be a little bit new, and I'm going to give them to you right before the test so that they'll be fresh in your mind. Maybe some of these will come up. There's a chance some of them will and some of them won't. So let's get started. A rhetorical device. What is a rhetorical device? It comes from the Greek word rhetoric. The etymology is basically means the art of the speaker. So how is a speaker artful? And you can look at this little quote here. Rhetorical devices is a technique that an author or speaker uses to convey to the listener or reader a meaning with the goal of persuading him or her towards considering a topic from a different perspective, using sentences designed to encourage, provoke a rational argument from an emotional display of a given perspective or action. Note that although rhetorical devices may be used to evoke an emotional response in the audience, this is not their primary purpose. This is mostly concerned with oratory, the art of public speaking, but it also transfers to fiction, poetry as well. You can see rhetorical devices in any good writing that we're going to run into. Well, this is a political speech by Winston Churchill. We shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with the growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight. You get the point. Repetition. We shall blah, blah, blah. He's attempting to persuade everyone to go to war. And what is the name of this device? Yeah, you could call it, a fancy word is anaphora. Okay, the repetition of a word or a phrase at the beginning of successive phrases, clauses, or lines. The next, here are a couple of other examples of some rhetorical devices. This is Barry Goldwater. Look him up if you don't know him, a candidate for presidency. He said, "Extremism in defense of liberty is no vice. Moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue." Brutus. "Not that I loved Caesar less, but I loved Rome more." And justifying his traitor or treasonous actions towards Julius Caesar. And then the vases of the classical period are but the reflection of classical beauty. The vases of the archaic period are beauty itself. The archaic period referring to the pottery of ancient Greece, which was basically copied by the classical period. So the classical period is a copy of something, and therefore it's just a reflection. But the actual original vases are what he calls beauty itself. So what's the rhetorical device here? It's called, the rhetorical device here is called antithesis, opposition or contrast of ideas or words, and a balanced or parallel construction. Next one. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. O fortunatum natam me consule Romam Cicero de consulata. I'm sorry, consulatu. This is more having to do with sound of the words. Kingdom come, thy will be done. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. There's the repetition of the sound, the vowel sound for, represented by this mark here. Roma, consulato, all of that sort of ah sound. I don't know the, is it 2 dots? I don't know how you mark that pronunciation marker, but this is called assonance, when you have the repetition of the same sound in words close to each other, usually the same vowel sound, okay? It's a poetic device as much as it's a rhetorical device. Important to know. Consonance is basically the same thing, but it's when you have the repetition of the similar consonant sounds. Okay, the assonance would be for vowels, consonants would be for consonants. Totally misspelled that. Okay, moving on. What do we see here? We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. Okay, political speech here. Gettysburg Address. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. From Demosthenes. What is happening here? Well, there's a lot of commas. A lot of commas linking together phrases. And that's an asyndeton. A means the absence of a connector. Syndeton means a connecting or a bringing together. And with the A means without or the absence of. For example, like atonal means there's not a good tone or it's toneless, or asymmetrical, without symmetry. So there are conjunctions missing. There's a lack of conjunctions between coordinate phrases, clauses, or words. What is the effect of this? Well, I don't know. I guess it's a way of stacking your thoughts together like bricks. There's a sense of, boom, 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 boom. When somebody's really on a roll making their case, they're just piling all of their ideas on top of one another. They don't need conjunctions. They're just throwing them at you one after another like snowballs of rhetoric. Syndeton is a polysyndeton. Oh, we'll get to that later. This one, you might remember this from Brit Lit. My vegetable love should grow. Okay, obviously that could be a strange metaphor. Vaster than empires, more slow, and 100 years should got to praise thine eyes and on thine forehead gaze. Okay, lots of exaggerating. 200 years to adore each breast, 30,000 to the rest. Okay, we all know a hyperbole. Exaggeration for emphasis or for rhetorical effect. In the case of Andrew Marvell, what was he trying to affect? It was what was called a seduction poem, if you remember. And it was actually a parody of a seduction poem, making fun of that form and all the rhetorical devices that were used. In this sentence here from Ernest Hemingway, I said, "Who killed him?" And he said, "I don't know who killed him, but he's dead, all right. And it was dark, and there was water standing in the street, and no lights, and windows broke, and boats all up in the town, and trees blown down, and everything all blown. And I got a skiff and went out and found my boat where I had her inside Mango Bay, and she was all right, and she was full of water." And all of these connectors, these syndetons, there's another one there, that makes it a polysyndeton, okay, the repetition of conjunctions in a series of coordinate words, phrases, or clauses. In this case, the use of the polysyndeton really sort of creates a tone of maybe hurriedness, maybe anxiety, rushed. maybe exasperated. So when you look at, sorry for my spelling, exasperated. When you look at these rhetorical devices in literature, you want to know to what effect. And this definitely has an effect on the tone. I suggested it makes it exasperated, anxious, rushed. Last example, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. Should be an easy one. While he learned the language, that meager and fragile thread, meager and fragile thread describes language. Okay, life described as a player. You get that's a metaphor. Poetic device, rhetorical device, both it fits in both categories. Implied comparison achieved through a figurative use of words. The word is used not in its literal sense, but in one analogous to it. All right, I will post the slideshow on the portal if you want to review it, and or you can review the video as well, and test yourself, and maybe even write your own rhetorical devices. All right.